Hi guys. So today we're talking about landforms. And if you were in class yesterday, then you were able to get this paper from me. It should look like this at the top on the front side. So if you want to take a minute and find that, just pause this video for a second and go find that paper. These are the guided notes that I hand out in class. Virtual kids, I'm trying to figure out a way that I want you to be able to do this. For right now, if you can just copy things down by hand as we go through them on these notes, that would be good for you. It's always good to write, listen, and see pieces of information using all those three senses, and it helps you to remember all those different things. So it's always good for you to write things down and listen to what's being said and read through it yourself. So as we talk today, we are mentioning just landforms. So landforms are natural features of the Earth's surface. And those landforms could necessarily be pieces of land, but you can also think of them as water forms also. Now, I wanted to just kind of test and see where you're at. So if you could take a second, you can pause the video, but look at those pictures. You have number 1, 2, and 3. And if you could think of writing down on the example line on the notes, what do you believe those 3 things are? What type of landforms would they be? So pause this video for a second. Okay, if you paused it and you wrote down what your guesses were. So this number 1 right here would be mountain. This one here would be plains. It's flat areas of land. And the arrow is pointing to this general area right here, and that in itself would be known as a plateau. So to kind of discuss these for a minute. So when you have a mountain is formed when 2 pieces of land, like plates, push up against each other. And as they're pushing, they just continue on, and then what is pushing against each other just moves up. And that's how you get mountains. The middle, the plains area, it's just flat piece of land. Indiana, covered mostly in plains. We don't have a lot of hills and so forth. There are a little bit as you go to southern Indiana, but mostly, especially right here, Indianapolis area, pretty much what we would consider like a plain. And then this third picture, the plateau, a plateau is a raised, steep, flat area of land. So you can see kind of this, and then it raises up on the side, and then this area up here is flat. That's what makes a plateau. Now, landforms can change their shape as time moves on, and some of those are shaped through what is called weathering and erosion. And so weathering and erosion kind of work together to shape many of Earth's landforms. The definition of weathering is the process that breaks rocks down into tiny pieces. So I put the hammer on there. So think of weathering as the hammer that is breaking the rock down. So if you were to, go home, get a hammer, get a piece of rock, and you just sat there and hammered away at the rock would continue to break into much smaller pieces. It would fragment, and more pieces would form. That is weathering. That's the actual process that breaks those rocks down. Rain can cause weathering. Heat can cause weathering. Heat causes rock to split. Like if you look at a driveway or a sidewalk, the reason that's splitting is weathering has caused that usually. The heat has caused that rock to split. This little example, weathering, the water has caused this rock to break down into pieces, and those rocks are formed into the water. That's the weathering part. It would be the hammer. It's the part that breaks everything down. With weathering, you usually always get erosion. Erosion is the process in which water, ice, or wind remove small pieces of rock. So the weathering breaks it down. The erosion is the process that moves it into different places. Usually it is water, ice, or wind. So in the case of the picture on the left, you're looking at a coast. You've got the ocean in the distance, but that ocean, that tide comes in and the water keeps beating on the side of that cliff. and those houses had been built there and they probably were just fine. But what happens is that water keeps hitting that, and that water keeps removing small pieces of the beach and taking it back out into the water. And as it does that, it doesn't come back. So as it keeps taking that rock, those houses and houses keep getting closer and closer, and they don't have the sustainability to stay on that cliff. So eventually, as time goes on, if the water keeps rising and keeps going into that area, those houses are probably going to fall into the ocean. The picture on the right, you have a creek or a river, and as that water moves, it slowly will pick up some of the pieces of the bank or the side of the river and take it downstream and deposit it somewhere else. And as it does that, it removes part of the side. And this look, when you see rivers and creeks, that is erosion. That's what's happened. And you can tell right here where it's very uneven and jagged that erosion has happened. So that is what you see. So weathering and erosion, again, go kind of hand in hand. The weathering is the part that breaks things into tiny pieces. The erosion is the part that removes those pieces and moves them from one place to another. Now, you are going to kind of look at what are a lot of the landforms that we see around the world. And you're going to do that by playing like a Kahoot landform review. Do you know your landforms? So as you are going through, you are going to play by yourself at home. But when you get done, it should tell you kind of what place you are in compared to what other of your classmates are doing. So I hope you have a good weekend. I will be looking at your Kahoots and making sure that those are done and see how you did. If you have any questions, please email me and let me know, and I will help you as soon as I can.